Hello everyone. In today's video I'm going to share with you the step-by-step instructions on how I painted the third rock, which is titled The River Walk. So stay tuned. So I started out by painting my rock all black, which I either paint them all black or all white. In this case I did black. And then I'm using a mixture of, I believe, phthalo blue and white to paint the sky and water, and I'm just going to paint the whole surface this kind of baby blue color. So now that I have my background color all in, I am going to start with the bridge that's in the background, and I'm using a tiny liner brush. It's a 12/0 round from Master's Touch. I use this paintbrush a lot for very fine detail. And I'm just putting in the railings and then the vertical structure. And that's pretty much it. It's just kind of 3 horizontal lines and 3 vertical lines. And that kind of completes my whole bridge for the background. Now I'm going to go in and start with the foliage that's on top of the bridge that's hanging off the rail. So I'm kind of taking a mixture of green, any kind of green that you want to use is fine. So I'm still using that same liner brush, and now I've taken a mixture of green, I believe it was green, yellow, and black, and I'm going to kind of stipple, kind of dab on in a stippling pattern the foliage for the flowers that are going to be in this vine on the hand railing. So now that I've got the background in, now I'm going in with some, I believe it was yellow oxide or yellow ochre, and we're going to, that same stippling pattern, I'm now adding the flowers. I'm also adding a little bit of red to the yellow to give it some variety. So now I'm taking a mixture of, I believe it's blue and black, to do some of the background trees over on the side. And this is just kind of my base layer, but I'm still doing the same stippling pattern. And also still using that same detail brush. So now I've picked up some red, and I'm going to add another little tree here in the background of kind of some red orange color. Remember, this is so small that you're just kind of stippling on color in different patterns to give the illusion of trees and flowers in the background. And I know my hand gets in the way on occasion. I'm sorry for that. It's just hard. Now it's hard to do a painting this small without getting in the way. So now I've taken kind of a lighter green, and every time I switch color it's indicating a different type of bush. I'm picking up, making it darker, it looks like. And the whole thing is just kind of these plants are all just kind of stippled in, just kind of bouncing the paintbrush up and down. And picking up some yellow ochre, and that's going to add the flowers in. So I'm fast forwarding through some of these sections just so this video isn't, an hour long. I think it took me just under an hour to complete this rock. So now I'm taking kind of a watered down green mixture and indicating the water. I'm still using that same brush and I'm just sliding it back and forth. This will eventually create kind of the movement in the water. And if you are painting along with me, I would recommend just pausing the video so that you can paint at your own speed, since I do have portions of this sped up. I myself am a very slow painter, so you definitely don't want me to just do a full-length video with no sped up versions. These videos would be incredibly long. So now I'm working on the base layer of kind of a weeping willow. So again, you can see I'm still using that same stippling motion to put in the leaves for the tree, but I'm kind of doing them in a vertical pattern so that it'll indicate some of the shape of the tree. Now I'm taking some darker, I believe it's a blue, a mixture of a dark blue, probably blue and black, to kind of darken the sides and adding some water movement over there. Now I'm taking some white, and that's going to kind of give the hint of reflection on the ripples in the water. And again, I'm just sliding my paintbrush back and forth. You're going to add a little bit of water to your paint to help it slide across the rock better. So now I'm taking a Princeton Select number 6 round blender to dab in my flowers. I'm still using the same kind of stippling motion, but this is just a little bit bigger paintbrush to kind of cover areas a little faster. So I'm just taking different colors. I took some red and now some pink. Then I'm going to take and make a dark green mixture, and I'm going to do the background of the foliage on the left hand side. Just any kind of dark green mixture. Looks like I'm probably using phthalo green and black to make this, and this is just going to be my base layer. I've got to put something dark in so that my lighter flowers, when I put those on, will stand out better. You see, this is a slightly bigger paintbrush, but I'm still using that same stippling pattern. And that gives you kind of some variety even in the base layer. So now I'm going to go in and work on the right hand side of the rock, and I'm still kind of working on that weeping willow, and you see I'm using kind of just stroking down. And this is just the base layers for that tree that kind of takes up the whole kind of right side of the rock. Now I'm using that stippling pattern to do the foliage in the foreground. And again, this is just the base layer. Now I'm taking some of that same color and darkening areas within the water where there's kind of little islands of foliage that are growing up in the water. So now I'm taking some of the yellow ochre and I'm starting to add some of the flowers on these little islands. Again, I'm just stippling on some dark color onto the left-hand side of the rock. It's kind of breaking up that side so that I didn't have just a smooth edge of foliage overlapping the water. So I'm adding a dark color to give some more contrast to the background. The darker I make this base layer, the better my foliage is going to stand out, the flowers and the color is going to stand out. Plus I'm trying to bring these plants to the foreground. So now I'm kind of mixing up an orange color to add some plants. The plants in the back are a little bit more muted in color, so you're going to see I'm going to lighten them up a little bit and make them a little bit more muted. And then I'll brighten them up as I move forward, kind of in the painting. As you move forward, the colors will stand out and be a lot brighter. The main point is just to make sure that you have a lot of variety in your different plants. When you're painting on such a small level, you can't really add any kind of detail. So you see, I mean, pretty much the whole thing is like a stippling pattern, and the only way you can indicate change is through color. You could change up your paintbrush to try to get a different brush pattern to indicate different flowers. I just stuck with this one and tried to, when I loaded it with paint, I tried to kind of bounce it on my palette to spread open the bristles. And that did kind of help a lot with making it appear like there's more detail in the flowers. I'm sorry if you're hearing all this dinging. I keep getting notifications on my computer as I'm recording this. And I don't want to speed through this part because I want you to see how I'm achieving the illusion of flowers, since I really didn't paint each individual flower in there. When I go to the right side, I might speed it up. You see, kind of every time I go back to my palette, I'm loading a different color. And again, making sure to kind of pounce my brush against the palette to kind of spread out those bristles. And that helps you, kind of helps give the illusion of kind of the flowers, the little bitty clumps of flowers. Now I'm adding a little dark in here to kind of break up the pattern a little bit, because you don't want to lose your shadows. You can see that adding in the dark shadows, it really helps define each of the individual plants. So I'm going to fast forward through this section because I drift kind of out of view. Here for a minute I do come back into view. And what I did was, for the willow, I went with a small flat brush and just kind of stippled on in vertical patterns to give the branches of the willow tree. And now I'm back to the small round blender brush, and again I'm doing exactly what I did on the left hand side. So I'm going to kind of fast forward through this section because it's just a repeat of what I did on the left hand side. So now I'm taking my small detail brush again, the 12/0 size Master Touch, and now I'm just taking some white and adding in some very small dots that's going to add a little more detail. Just adding some little clusters This gives the illusion of like really tight detail of flowers in there. But really, again, it's just that stippling pattern. So now I'm going to go in and work on the bridge a little bit because I've kind of lost it in the details. So I'm just going to kind of go over it with some dark colors, probably black, just to make sure that you can still see it. It still needs to be a focal point in the painting, even though it is in the background. And if you ever get too much paint or it's too dark, then just hit it with your finger and it'll lighten it up. And I do that a lot and it really works. So now I'm just kind of altering where the water comes in. I want it to come in a little bit, break up this left hand side a little bit. There's a glare on the rock, so it's kind of hard to see. Now I'm just going in and just kind of stippling on the hint of flowers with this tiny little brush. See, if I had used this brush in the beginning to do all the flowers, it would have taken a lot longer. You just want to use this one at the end to kind of just tighten up your details. And I didn't like how that white kind of plant was looking, so kind of breaking it up with some black and lightening it, because it was standing out too much and it was kind of distracting. So now I'm adding some very fine lines to indicate some grass or some weeds sticking out there. And darken up the area right where the plants and the water meet, because there should be a shadow underneath that, and that's going to kind of give you some separation. So now I'm going back to the bridge again because I feel like it still needs to be better defined. So I've gone with this is a Royal and Langnickel. It looks like a number 4 flat. I'm taking black and just going to define this whole bridge a little better. It needs to stand out. It needs to stand out more. When you're doing straight lines, these flat brushes work great. So now you can see the bridge better. Then I'm going to take some white and some blue and kind of mute down that white a little bit. And I'm going to define the ripples in the water a little better. And I'm using that flat brush still. And I load it, and then I kind of rub some of the paint off, and that helps flatten and chisel that edge of that paintbrush, so that when I go across it sideways, I've got a sharp edge and I get a really fine line. And that's helping define that water movement. I'm doing the same thing. I've kind of added more blue to my color. Lightening this up in some areas. I thought it was too dark. And again, I'm trying to pull that water and break up that left-hand side. So I want it to look like there's the water kind of goes off on that left-hand side, like there's an inlet over there. So now I'm really lightening up. Words are hard sometimes. And you see I'm leaving that dark section there in the back. That's the shadow that the bridge is causing on the water. You can see I've gone in and lightened up my water a lot. So one thing that's nice about acrylics, if you don't like something, you just let it dry, which happens pretty quick, especially when you're using very thin layers of paint, which I do. It dries kind of as you paint. Somewhere else it's drying, and so you can work pretty fast. And there you go. So I'm checking my edge to make sure I don't have a lot of bleed over, and where I do, I'm going to take, in this case, I'm taking paint, and I'm going to just clean up the edge. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with anybody you think would be interested in painting this rock. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.